Greetings and welcome. I'm Chief Information Officer at Desiree Smith in the Department of Information and Public Relations, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's sitting of the House of Assembly. This sitting is being held today, Tuesday, November 21st, 2023, but it will be a special sitting of the House, the sixth sitting of the first session of the Fifth House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands. And in this sitting, the focus today will be on the 2024 budget address given by Premier in his position as the Minister of Finance, specifically as he addresses the public on the projections for the appropriation of the budget for 2024 for the Virgin Islands government. So right now, we're awaiting the start of the House of Assembly as this special sitting takes place annually to give us an idea of what we can expect, the public can expect, as far as the appropriations, the budget for 2024 for the territory of the Virgin Islands. We have our members for the House of Assembly already assembled, and in short order, we will be beginning as the Premier will, in his capacity as Minister of Finance, addressing us on the budget address. So we'll be on standby shortly as the Premier makes his way and the session for the House of Assembly starts shortly. Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in or staying tuned with us here on this GIS broadcast. I'm Chief Information Officer in the Department of Information and Public Relations, Desiree Smith. As today's special sitting of the House of Assembly, it's the 6th sitting of the first session of the fifth House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands. And today is a special sitting. Today, the Premier and Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Natalia D. Wheatley, will be presenting the 2024 budget address. Assembled already are other members of the House of Assembly as we await the Premier to take his position amongst the members, and as the session starts with the Speaker of the House, the session will be focused on giving an address concerning the budget address for 2024. So we thank you for tuning in, and please stay tuned with us for the duration as we listen keenly on this very important sitting. That is the sixth sitting of the first session of the Fifth House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands, wherein the Premier and Minister of Finance will be given the budget address for 2024. Please stay tuned with us. Thank you. Tuned with us on this GIS broadcast of the sixth sitting of the first session of the House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands. We are about to begin. Madam Speaker has entered.
Of Second Chronicles. God answered Solomon, "Because this was in your heart, and you have not asked for possessions, wealth, honor, or the life of those who hate you, and have not even asked for long life, but have asked for wisdom and knowledge for yourself, that you may rule my people over whom I have made you king. Wisdom and knowledge are granted to you. I will also give you riches, possessions, and honor, such as none of the kings had who were before you, and none after you shall have the like." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Every leader must establish a clear list of priorities, then learn to put first things first. When Solomon became king of Israel, he was given the opportunity to ask God for anything. Solomon, no doubt, faced some of the very hurdles leaders of nations still face today, with the harsh political and economic realities. He could have asked for a simpler assignment, riches or fame. He could have requested for all that was needed to build the temple, a task set before him. Or he may have asked to gain the favor of those who were against him. He could have petitioned for the path of least resistance. He chose to put first things first. He chose to seek wisdom so he could glorify God. In this sixth sitting of the first session of the Fifth House of Assembly, you are the leaders of these islands. You come again choosing to put first things first, as we with you petition God for wisdom. May this be the petition of your individual lives, that you may lead with integrity, righteousness, and unity. Let us pray. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, hold before us the truth of your greatness and goodness in the beauty of this day. Mighty God, we praise you and will tell of your marvelous works throughout all generations, for you are great and greatly to be praised. Eternal God, before whom nations rise and fall, by whose authority you establish those who govern, as you have established these men and women to serve in these islands and in this house of assembly, we turn to you on their behalf. We remember before you the governor, the deputy governor, the premier, and other elected government ministers, the speaker and deputy speaker, His Majesty's loyal opposition, and all who hold positions of authority and influence. Bless them now. Let your face shine upon them. Be gracious unto them and give them your peace. Forgiving God, help us and them to repent of wrongs of these islands and to choose your way of reconciliation and renewal. Forgive our selfish and greed and our lack of neighborliness. Giving God, grant them your wisdom, deep humility, and unwavering determination as they address and solve problems of these islands. Help them to speak the truth in love. Give them eyes to see each other as friends and not as foes, as colleagues and not competitors. Silence the noises that distract them, enabling them to hear your still small voice, to be still and know that you are God, to know that it is by your will that they sit in this seat of authority. For those today whose hearts are heavy with personal issues, concerns for family, friends, or self, be for them the God of goodness, compassion, and healing, that so renewed they may respond to duty with focus. Guiding God, as the budget is presented today, remind them and us, O God, that the earth is yours and the fullness thereof, and that you have called us to be good stewards of what has been entrusted to us. Lord, infuse the Honorable Premier and Minister of Finance with understanding and knowledge, that with a spirit of calmness and open-mindedness, the voice of reason may be heard in this budget presentation. May this budget reflect thanksgiving for your blessings, wisdom in the use of resources, responsibility for the building up and improvement of individual lives and these islands, benevolence towards the most vulnerable, distribution of finances with equity and fairness across the various ministries, even if cuts have to be made. Lord, keep it void of personal and hidden agendas that would only cripple and undermine the growth and health of these islands. At the end of this day, may our islands be better because these souls have gathered in your name, been directed by your Spirit, and may your glory be recognized through their work. These are three things we continue to pray: for courage for our great leaders, that they may rule our destiny. We ask for wisdom for our people, that we may live in harmony, and understanding for children, so they may cherish this legacy. And Lord, may your peace and power prevail in our islands and world. We pray all this in the righteous name of Jesus the Christ. Amen. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Good morning. Please be seated. This House now convenes its sitting. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 2. Item number 2, administration of oath. Item number 3, confirmation of minutes.
Thank you. Honorable members, is it your pleasure that the minutes of the meetings held on the 31st day of October 2023, which have been circulated to members, be confirmed? There being no dissenting voice, the minutes hereby stand confirmed as circulated. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 4, announcements by the speaker.
A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to the 6th sitting of the first session of the 5th House of Assembly. I wish to recognize our current members, our past members, their spouses, the clerks, the past clerks of the House of Assembly. I further wish to recognize our past deputy governors who are in our midst, our permanent secretaries, our heads of departments, as well as statutory bodies, our distinguished guests, and our members of the community who are joining us here today or who are tuning in to this broadcast. As we are on the heels of commemorating the Great March of 1949 and the subsequent restoration of the Legislative Council, it makes today's proceedings very significant. These pivotal events, led by national heroes like Tidolf Faulkner, Isaac Glennie Fonseca, and Carlton de Castro, laid the foundation for our autonomy and the ability to shape our destiny as proud Virgin Islanders. The march 74 years ago was a courageous stand for the right to develop our education and health systems, build our economy and infrastructure, and pave the way for a brighter future for every Virgin Islander. Their efforts were not in vain, as a year later, our Legislative Council was restored, setting the stage for the election of representatives who would guide the Virgin Islands on a path of progress. Reflecting on our history, we also acknowledge the democratic process that in 1978 saw the appointment of the Virgin Islands' first Minister of Finance, the late Chief Minister, Dr. Willard Wheatley. Today, his legacy lives on through his grandson, the current Premier and Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Natalia D. Wheatley. In the spirit of continuity, Premier Wheatley will present a motion for the first and second readings of the bill entitled the Appropriation Act 2024. Following this, He will present the budget address, which will outline the government's visions for the upcoming year, highlighting key public programs and infrastructure projects. Let us not take this day for granted. As we reflect on our journey, acknowledge the sacrifices of those who came before us, and look forward to a future shaped by the collective efforts of the people and government of the Virgin Islands. Thank you for joining us, whether in person, through the media, or online platforms, as we mark this important moment in our history and chart the course of the year ahead. Thank you. I now call upon the clerk.
Item number 5, presentation of papers.
I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to lay his documents.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to lay on the table the following document. Statutory Instrument 2023, number 84, a proclamation by the Governor under Section 83(1) of the Virgin Islands Constitution Order 2007, appointing the time and place at which the 6th sitting of the 1st session of the 5th House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands shall be held. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Before we move on, I do note that the member of the 3rd District, Honorable Julian Fraser, has given notice of his absence today. He does apologize for his absence today. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 6, notices of motion given oral.
I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to give notice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to give notice that at a later stage in the proceedings, I will seek leave to move the motion standing in my name under item 7.1, Roman numeral 1 through Roman numeral 13 on the order of the day. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I call upon the Leader of the Opposition and Territorial Member to give notice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to give notice that at a later stage in these proceedings, I will seek leave to ask the question standing in my name under Roman numeral, under item 9, Roman numeral 1 to 3.
I call upon the Deputy Speaker and Territorial Member to give notice.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. I rise to give notice that at a later stage in these proceedings, I seek leave to ask a question standing in my name under item Roman numeral 4 through 7 on the order of the day. Thank you.
I call upon the Leader of the Opposition to give notice on behalf of the member for the 3rd District.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of the member for the 3rd to give notice that at a later stage in these proceedings, I will seek leave to ask the questions standing in his name under item 9, Roman numeral 4,
To 11. 9 to 11.
under item 9, Roman numeral 9 to 11. I will read this, sir.
Thank you. I call upon the member for the 8th District to give notice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to give notice that at a later stage in the proceedings, I would seek leave to ask a question standing in my name under item 9, Roman numeral 12 through 16 on the order of the day.
I call upon the member for the 6th District to give notice.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, at a later stage in the proceeding, I would seek leave to ask the questions standing in my name under item 9, Roman numeral 17 through 19 on the order of the day.
Thank you. I call upon the member for the 2nd District to give notice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I give notice that at a later stage of the proceedings, I will seek leave to ask the question standing in my name under item 9, Roman numeral 20 through 24 on the order of the day.
Thank you. I call upon the clerk.
Item number 7, public business. 1, government business.
I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, standing in my name, shortly entitled Roman Catholic Bishop of St. John's Incorporation and Vesting Amendment Act 2023.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that leave to introduce the bill shortly entitled Roman Catholic Bishop of St. John's Incorporation and Vesting Amendment Act 2023 be granted. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I now call upon the Premier.
Madam Speaker, I introduce the bill standing in my name, shortly entitled Roman Catholic Bishop of St. John's Incorporation and Vesting Amendment Act 2023. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Roman Catholic Bishop of St. John's Incorporation and Vesting Amendment Act 2023 be now read a fourth time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Roman Catholic Bishop of St. John's Incorporation and Vesting Amendment Act 2023 be now read a first time. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill for the first time.
This act may be cited as the Roman Catholic Bishop of St. John's Incorporation and Vesting Amendment Act 2023.
Thank you. I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to move a motion that leave be granted to introduce the following bill standing in my name, shortly entitled Environmental Protection and Tourism Improvement Fund Validation Act 2023.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that leave to introduce the bill shortly entitled Environmental Protection and Tourism Improvement Fund Validation Act 2023 be granted. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I now call upon the Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I introduce the bill standing in my name, shortly entitled Environmental Protection and Tourism Improvement Fund Validation Act 2023. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Environmental Protection and Tourism Improvement Fund Validation Act 2023 be now read a fourth time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Environmental Protection and Tourism Improvement Fund Validation Act 2023 be now read a first time. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill for the first time.
This act may be cited as the Environmental Protection and Tourism Improvement Fund Validation Act 2023.
Thank you. I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move a motion that leave be granted to introduce the following bill standing in my name, shortly entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that leave to introduce the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 be granted. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I introduce the bill standing in my name, shortly entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023, and will explain its provision at the second reading. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 be now read a fourth time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 be now read a first time. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill for the first time.
This act may be cited as the Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 and shall come into force on the first day of January 2024.
Thank you. I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to move a motion that leave be granted to introduce the following bill standing in my name, shortly entitled Virgin Islands Recovery and Development Agency Amendment and Validation Bill 2023.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that leave to introduce the bill shortly entitled Virgin Islands Recovery and Development Agency Amendment and Validation Bill 2023. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I introduce the bill standing in my name, shortly entitled Virgin Islands Recovery and Development Agency Amendment and Validation Bill 2023. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Virgin Islands Recovery and Development Agency Amendment and Validation Bill 2023 be now read a first time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Virgin Islands Recovery and Development Agency Amendment and Validation Bill 2023 be now read a first time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill for the first time.
This act may be cited as the Virgin Islands Recovery and Development Agency Amendment and Validation Bill 2023.
Thank you. I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move that standing order number 52-2 be suspended to allow for the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 to be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that standing order number 52-2 be suspended to allow the bill entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 to be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move a motion that Standing Order number 52-2 be suspended to allow the bill shortly entitled Virgin Islands Recovery and Development Agency Amendment and Validation Bill 2023 to be read a second time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that Standing Order number 52-2 be suspended to allow the bill entitled Virgin Islands Recovery and Development Agency Amendment and Validation Bill 2023 to be read a second time. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. I call upon the Premier and Minister of Finance to move a motion. We'll take a short recess.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move that the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 be read a second time, and I also seek leave to give the budget address.
Thank you. And now the Premier Minister for Finance will give the budget address.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I acknowledge you, as well as all the members of the House of Assembly, and especially invited guests, and those who are viewing online as well as listening via various platforms. I also want to acknowledge Reverend Morna Christmas Fraser, who gave a delightful prayer. And I think that we all would be the better in the House of Assembly if we heard a prayer like that before each sitting. Madam Speaker, I'm honored to present the 2024 budget address, which aims to communicate to the national public the plans of the elected government for the upcoming fiscal year and beyond, and how we propose to manage the financial affairs of the territory and its development. It is my first budget address since my colleagues and I were elected and sworn in as ministers and junior ministers to lead the people of the Virgin Islands through adversity into a new era of prosperity. Madam Speaker, my task is simple but incredibly difficult. It is to build this Virgin Islands, this burgeoning nation, into an even bigger success, along with my team. This was a process started by our ancestors, and it is our responsibility to continue this advancement. Madam Speaker, the period between the August 2017 floods and present day has been one of the most difficult in the history of these islands. And as I illustrated in last year's budget address, titled Revenue Reform, Recovery and Resilience, the Virgin Islands in Transition, the overwhelming evidence is that our economy and our people have developed and have demonstrated an awe-inspiring level of resilience in the face of myriad challenges and shocks. Yes, we have been hit by a barrage of heavy punches, Madam Speaker, but every time we were knocked down, we got back up. We faced environmental disaster in 2017 with devastating floods and 2 Category 5 hurricanes. But, Madam Speaker, we got back up. We were clobbered by a global pandemic not long after, exacerbating our economic and social pressures. Yet again, Madam Speaker, we got back up. We were hammered by intense political turmoil with the threat of the suspension of our Constitution. Madam Speaker, we rose to the occasion and got back up again. We are still standing today, and as though all those heavy punches were not enough, 2 major international wars have started, contributing to inflationary pressures, driving the already high cost of living up. Madam Speaker, with every knockdown, we have gotten up, and we are punching back. Madam Speaker, we have completed the restoration of nearly all the government administration buildings on Tortola, Anegada, Virgin Gorda, and Jas Van Dyke, with the exception of the Ralph T. O'Neill Central Administration Complex, where works are ongoing. These include the Vanterpool Building, the Flax Building, the John E. George Building on Virgin Gorda, the Albert H. Shinnery Building on Jas Van Dyke, and the Theodore Faulkner Building in Anegada. We have also restored or repaired nearly all our educational infrastructure with a few exceptions. We rehabilitated the Ella Dorothy Turnbull Building and built the new Elmer Stout High School. We restored the Brigado Flax Educational Center and several other schools. Madam Speaker, there were many more school rehabilitation and maintenance initiatives that took place throughout the territory between 2018 and 2023. The Jas Van Dyke Primary School is nearing completion, and work on construction of the new Eslyn Henley Richer Learning Center has commenced. Almost all our recreational facilities have been restored. These include the A.O. Shirley Recreation Grounds, the Anegada Recreation Facility, the Multipurpose Sports Complex, the Jeffrey Kane Sports Arena and Recreation Grounds, basketball courts, softball fields across the territory. We repaired the health facilities, built social homes, repaired private homes that were damaged by the hurricanes, and much more. And while our recovery has taken longer than any of us would like, I see light at the end of the tunnel. Our economy, Madam Speaker, was able to rebound swiftly from the hurricanes and the COVID-19 pandemic. Businesses were able to reopen and to continue creating jobs. The projection is that at the close of 2023, the number of persons employed in the territory will exceed the 2022 total of 21,134 persons by 1 to 2%. Despite challenges to the industry from external forces, our financial services industry maintained a strong presence. The forecast is that by the close of 2023, revenue should be in the vicinity of $250 million. Madam Speaker, our tourism sector has also shown great resilience, despite serious challenges over the last several years. We saw a quick and healthy rebound from the 2017 hurricanes. The recovery was interrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, but from the moment we reopened our international borders in December 2020, the visitor arrivals have been consistently climbing. Tourist arrivals in 2022 were back up to 58.6% of total 2019 visitors. That momentum continued into 2023. Visitor arrivals in the BVI are projected to surpass 2019 figures by the end of the year, with an estimated 978,052 visitors to the territory. According to the trends, cruise and day trip visitors are expected to reach 736,413 persons. Meanwhile, United Nations World Tourism Organization experts are still debating whether international tourism will reach 2019 levels in 2024 or 2025. Madam Speaker, I'm advised that the projection is that the Virgin Islands economy will end 2023 with a 5.5% growth in nominal gross domestic product. All of these facts, Madam Speaker, demonstrate that we do have an economy and a people which are resilient and very active. Madam Speaker, further evidence of how well our economy performed and how well the government managed the affairs of the people can be found by a quick review of the numbers for 2023. The revised estimates show total revenue for 2023 was $377 million, just above the initial projections. Taking a closer look at the revenue figures as they relate to tourism for 2023, Madam Speaker. Hotel accommodation tax revenue is estimated at $7.18 million, in line with the initial estimates and close to $500,000 above 2022 receipts. Taxes from motor vehicle rentals are estimated at $147,764, or 3.5% above the initial projections, and 11.53% more than 2022. Cruising permits revenue for 2023 is estimated at $4.10 million, compared to $4.19 million in the previous year, and we still have November and December left to go in this year. Tourist arrival levy revenues have been much higher than expected. For 2023, tourist arrival levies are estimated at $2.24 million. This is more than $545,000 above the initial estimates, and a 24.07% increase over 2022 figures. With respect to some of our other revenue streams, Madam Speaker, for 2023, income and payroll tax increased by more than $417,000 over 2022's revenue to $57.68 million. Taxes on goods and services increased by more than $23.22 million over 2022 receipts to $244.42 million. Revenues from trade licenses were $958,778, an increase of $21,073 over 2022. Non-alcoholic import duties increased by $6.86 million over 2022 revenues to an estimated $39.51 million in 2023. Alcoholic import duties increased from $1.47 million in 2022 to an estimated $1.80 million in 2023. Taxes on international trade were $44.88 million, an increase of $7.96 million compared to 2022. Revenues from money transfer fees were $2.03 million, $24,000 more than receipts in 2022. These figures illustrate that the economy is performing, generating employment, and facilitating trade and business. The total revised expenditure for 2023 is $415.13 million. Recurrent expenditure was $387.21 million. Central government capital acquisitions totaled $8.87 million, and central government development projects were $30.19 million. Development projects under the Recovery and Development Agency totaled $9.48 million. Total government debt at the end of 2023 will stand at $118.98 million at the close of the year, of which $88.49 million is foreign debt and $30.49 million is local debt. We have demonstrated great resilience in the management of public resources, and we continue to have a healthy economy. In addition to the resilience in the economy, we have also responded to political shocks with a reform process that will ultimately prepare us to continue along the path of self-determination. Madam Speaker, the Virgin Islands economy fared well, and our people have endured, and we'll continue to rely on the resilient spirit we have demonstrated in the response to the storms we have weathered. We must strengthen ourselves for the journey ahead because there are many tests. This is reflected in the analyses of the global economy, which impacts us because we are intricately connected to what is happening in the rest of the world. And if there is one lesson to be learned from our experiences over the recent years, is that the global situation is very volatile and can take a complete about turn in an instant. Global economic institutions have delivered sobering reports of the global outlook. According to the World Economic Forum, the recession concerns which were forecasted the year before appear to have eased, but the outlook remains anemic, as many leading economists expect the global economy to weaken in the coming year. According to the IMF's October 2023 World Economic Outlook report, the baseline forecast is for global growth to slow from 3.5% in 2022 to 3.0% in 2023 and 2.9% in 2024, well below the historical average of 3.8%. Advanced economies are expected to slow down from 2.6% in 2022 to 1.5% in 2023 and 1.4% in 2024 as policy tightening starts to bite. Emerging market and developing economies are projected to have a modest decline in growth from 4.1% in 2022 to 4.0% in both 2023 and 2024. Global inflation is forecast to decline steadily from 8.7% in 2022 to 6.9% in 2023 and 5.8% in 2024 due to tighter monetary policy aided by lower international commodity prices. Core inflation is generally projected to decline more gradually, and inflation is not expected to return to target until 2025 in most cases. Madam Speaker, one can sense the same kind of cautious optimism in the forecasts as we have come to expect of lately, but, and this is based on the patterns of recent years, it seems to be urging more caution than optimism. It has been noted that the overall forecast for the global economy masks a growing divergence in growth prospects around the world, as global growth is currently heavily reliant on expansions being recorded in the majority of emerging and developing economies, whereas there's a continuing slowdown across 93% of advanced economies. Furthermore, some forecasters, such as Bloomberg Economy, posit that a wider war in the Middle East can tip the world into a recession that would take about $1 trillion off world output and see oil prices soaring to $150 per barrel and global growth falling to as low as 1.7%. The region is a crucial supplier of energy and a key shipping passageway. Experts say this is a real risk. There's a lot to be said, Madam Speaker, but I believe the above data is sufficient to convey the point that 2023 has been very challenging for countries around the world, and there's wide uncertainty as to when the clouds will lift. Madam Speaker, despite what is happening in the rest of the world, we can be heartened by the resilience we have demonstrated. We are tough people, and we thrive when the chips are against us. And it is important for us to acknowledge we are not powerless to impact our well-being. Ultimately, the steps we take here in the Virgin Islands will determine our destination. The measures we take and the strategies we make are essential in our battle for success. Under my leadership, this administration is prepared to make those steps. We are determined to have the dialogue, to make the preparations, to implement the structures, and to make the tough decisions. Madam Speaker, an economy in motion is one that is generating and supporting economic activity and creating economic opportunities for businesses and individuals. The effects of this are evident in the revenues received by the government, which in turn represent a small fraction of the money that moves to the businesses and households. Overall revenues from regular government services and taxes are projected to increase by $5.65 million over 2023 revenues to $382.67 million in 2024. A healthy, vibrant economy creates job opportunities. Revenue from work permits are expected to increase from $9.37 million in 2023 to $9.51 million in 2024. Employment activity is reflected in the payroll tax received, which will increase by $2.16 million in 2024 to $59.83 million, compared to $57.67 million in the previous year. Revenues from hotel accommodation tax, motor vehicle rental tax, liquor and still licenses, and cruising permits are expected to increase by 1.02%, 12.41%, 43.59%, and 4.69% respectively. These are all streams related to tourism activity, and it reflects the efforts that the government and our agencies, such as the BVI Airports Authority, the BVI Ports Authority, the BVI Tourist Board, the Cyril B. Romney Tortola Pier Park, the Virgin Islands Shipping Registry, our overseas offices, and others, have been making to market our tourism product and to develop the transportation linkages necessary to get visitors to our shores. Tourist arrival levies are projected to increase by 10% to $2.46 million. Revenue from trade licenses are expected to increase from $958,778 in 2023 to $980,282 in 2024. Madam Speaker, those persons who have the entrepreneurial eye are seeing business opportunities in the economy. Revenue from banks and fiduciaries are expected to increase from $3.55 million to $3.64 million in 2024. And income from money transfer fees should increase by 5.62% from $2.03 million to $2.15 million. Revenue from the Registry for Corporate Affairs, which pertains to our financial services industry, is forecast to drop by 1.24% compared to 2023, from $208.63 million to $206.05 million. Revenue from investment business is expected to grow by 1.25% to $4.16 million in 2024. Madam Speaker, my government, like those persons who have served before, recognizes that we have a sacred duty, which is to ensure the responsible management of the affairs of our people and to develop these islands and our economy in a manner that enhances the prospects of future generations of Virgin Islanders, but also in a sustainable manner. Our people have been on a mission of nation building, each of us carrying the baton during the tenure of service and passing it on to our successors so that we can run their leg in this relay. As I have explained, our economy has done remarkably well in the face of many challenges. We have endured harsh circumstances, but by God's grace, we have been able to withstand the pressure, and we will continue with the guidance and protection of our Creator. But despite our resilience and our blessings, we still need to proceed with caution and diligence and not allow complacency to creep in. The global environment has not stabilized, and the advice is to prepare for the worst while praying for the best. The good news is we have wonderful potential to grow our economy based on our national assets, most of all, our people. However, to navigate an uncertain global environment while seeking to address many outstanding challenges, we have to be deliberate in our strategy, and we have to plan and prioritize what we want to achieve and the progress and sustainable development we all want. Madam Speaker, a major priority of my administration is improving wages, We have to confront the reality that under the current remuneration scheme, we have government employees who cannot afford to take care of their own basic needs with the salaries they are being paid, let alone take care of a family. The PricewaterhouseCoopers Compensation Review and Job Classification Report, which was recently accepted by Cabinet, highlights, and I quote, analysis of current salaries to the living wage for a single-person household also revealed that the median salary for grades 1 through 3 is currently below the living wage. This accounts for 17.3% of total employees in the government. Additionally, grades 4 to 6 are between 2% and 20% higher than the living wage, which leaves limited opportunities for upward social mobility, savings, settling debt, emergencies, investments, etc. Approximately 42.6% of total government employees are situated in these levels. A minimum wage was estimated to be $23,719.80 per annum, representing the cost for a single-person household to live a basic but decent life in the BVI, inclusive of food, housing, education, health care, transportation, clothing, and other essentials for a family, including unexpected events. And these costs reflect local items and prices for 2021-2022, as reported by the BVI Central Statistics Office. Madam Speaker, it is unacceptable for approximately 60% of our public officers to be walking poor, with no hope of being able to meet their basic needs, their bills, or to save not just for a rainy day, but to advance their social conditions. They must be released from this frustration and hopelessness. The inadequacies of our current compensation system have been highlighted in several reviews over the past 2 decades. The solutions to these problems have been known, but unfortunately there's a tendency for reports and recommendations, such as those, to end up on a shelf somewhere, only to collect dust while our people suffer. Madam Speaker, my colleagues and I are committed to ensuring that such will not be the fate of the current compensation review and job classification exercise. We have budgeted the money in this year's budget to implement the revised compensation and classification scheme. We have decided to move forward with the implementation because we know public officers should be paid what they deserve. We know that the cost of living is high, and many of the meager salaries could not handle it. One thing that we must all be committed to achieve is that no public officer will be earning less than the living wage. We have allocated close to $10 million in the budget to achieve this goal. Madam Speaker, we also have commitments. We also have committed ourselves to payment of all outstanding arrears for increments. When I entered office in 2019, the payment of increments was significantly behind, but we are very close to becoming current because we have committed to meeting our obligations. And may I add that we have to ensure going forward that we raise the revenues to keep pace with our obligations. And public servants are a part of that process. Madam Speaker, one thing that the Compensation Review and Job Classification Report highlights is that even when the current minimum wage of $6 per hour is adhered to, the gross salary of many workers in the private sector also falls short of a living wage. This has also not escaped the government, and the Honorable Minister of Financial Services and Trade is creating a forum for all stakeholders to come together and discuss what can be done about the current minimum wage. As the Honorable Minister has indicated, the government alone cannot decide on what should be a minimum wage. But we are optimistic that by bringing the stakeholders, such as private sector employers, into a national discussion, solutions can be found. I wish to take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to once again remind persons who may be seeking short-term employment or interested in learning skills that they can enroll in the Registration, Apprenticeship Training, Employment and Development Program, or RATED. So far, over 700 persons have been able to access opportunities to the RATED program, and individuals have even moved on to full employment, some of them. This program will continue to be developed in 2024. Madam Speaker, in this budget, we will see a work management system that will assist us manage our labor force and ensure that opportunities are there for nationals to have the dignity of a job. We will also see the return of the Business Bureau to assist our small businesses to employ themselves and others and deliver goods and services successfully. Madam Speaker, we have the difficult task of balancing important obligations, like paying salaries and operating government, with a need to control recurrent expenditure at sustainable levels, while delivering on a holistic development agenda. In recent years, the high cost of government operations versus revenues collected leave very little room to finance capital projects. Therefore, by necessity, we must rely heavily on loan funding for infrastructural projects. To illustrate, Madam Speaker, the average recurrent revenue for the last 6 years has been $364.05 million, but the average recurrent expenditure has been $351.26 million, leaving a surplus of just $12.98 million. This sounds like a lot of money, but this can only stretch so far when you consider that the average allocation for capital expenditure for the last 6 years has been $39.05 million. And that only covers a few major projects that are prioritized as urgent. Madam Speaker, it is clear that on one hand, we have to increase revenues. We have to exercise our innovativeness to draw out more business from our existing revenue streams, and we have to develop new ones. We also have to look at how we can lower the cost of government operations without compromising the quality and efficiency of service and ensuring that our public officers are justly and fairly compensated for their work. Simultaneously, Madam Speaker, measures are being put in place to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of collecting revenues that are owed to government. These include the electronic tax system known as SIGTAS, as well as pending policy decisions on good standing certificates. Madam Speaker, a consistent priority for government is defending existing revenue earners. Madam Speaker, the financial services industry is the government's primary revenue generator, and this is not expected to change in the medium term. Therefore, we must take proactive measures to protect and preserve the integrity of this industry in the Virgin Islands in order to continue to be a leader in the financial services industry. The Financial Services Commission continues to invest in enhancing the efficiency of their processes, which would centralize information and improve regulatory functions. In this regard, the FSC plans to undertake the following strategic initiatives in 2024. Implement the Register of Persons with Significant Control. Develop and advance the implementation to modernize and upgrade Virgin. Fully implement the supervision framework for virtual asset service providers. Commence the co-monitoring function with the Virgin Islands Deposit Insurance Corporation. And implement the Basel II plus regulatory framework. Madam Speaker, BVI Finance is working tirelessly on the local and global front to protect the reputation of the territory as a world leader in financial services. In addition, in 2024, BVI Finance plans to promote the products and services offered by the Virgin Islands by, among other things, attending conferences such as the BVI Asia Trade Mission, hosting a FinTech of the Seas event to market BVI digital assets, products, and services, and launching various reports including BVI Business Insight magazine, digital asset brochure, and Beyond Globalization, the British Virgin Islands' contribution to global prosperity in an uncertain world. In addition to the threats already mentioned, this jurisdiction continues to face challenges from the European Union listing, global and regional competition, global minimum tax, negative international media reports, and OECD peer review. It is why, Madam Speaker, I reiterate that we must take proactive measures to protect and preserve the integrity of the financial services industry in the Virgin Islands and to maintain our competitive edge. Madam Speaker, another revenue honor that my government is ensuring to prioritize is our tourism industry, which accounts for 1 in every 3 jobs and 1/3 of our revenues. For our industry to continue growing, it needs the supporting infrastructure. The upgrade and expansion of the Terence B. Lettsome International Airport to handle increased passenger arrivals and larger aircraft that are capable of bringing in visitors from further distances is critical to the further development of our tourism industry. Similarly, the construction of the new West End Ferry Terminal will make a tremendous contribution to boosting our tourist arrivals and creating business opportunities across our islands, and more so in the western part of the territory. These projects, Madam Speaker, are projects that we must prioritize. Hence, Madam Speaker, we are moving forward with plans to expand the TB Lettsome International Airport. Informed by the results of the recent vision and meeting with stakeholders, $3 million has been allocated for development projects at the TB Lettsome International Airport to improve facilities, enhance capacity, safety, efficiency, create jobs, and attract visitors. The government in September 2023 discussed the requirements of our longer-term expansion plans for the airport with the United Kingdom. A request for proposal to secure a consultant to complete the business case for the airport expansion project has been published. The tender submission date is the 29th of December 2023. Government's investment in the expansion of the airport is envisaged to improve the tourism experience and increase arrival numbers with the ease in access to the territory. Madam Speaker, $4 million has been allocated to commence the construction of the West End Ferry Terminal, which will be a technologically driven facility capable of accommodating over 200,000 passengers per year. The growth of our tourist industry and economy is only possible if we have accommodation to house our guests. The growth of our tourist industry and our economy is only possible if we have accommodation to house our guests. Since the hurricanes, accommodation has been a challenge as many of our properties were damaged or destroyed. In addition, there were major properties that were not operating. Increasing our room stock is a priority for this government. Madam Speaker, the government is committed to providing all the support required so that investors can increase accommodation for visitors. A number of tourism investment projects have already been approved by the Planning Authority. Major hotels and resorts such as at Nanny Key, Peter Island, Long Bay, Bitter End, and Eustacia have either commenced large-scale expansion work in 2023 or will start in 2024. Other major development works are planned at Blunder Bay, for which $38 million master plan was already approved. In addition, approval was provided for a wellness resort and spa development on Jas Van Dyke in 2023. It is anticipated that works would commence in the short term. Development of villas continue at Oil Nut Bay Resort. Development on Norman Island is progressing well in the planning stages. The redevelopment of Prospect Reef is a high priority. We are working feverishly to constitute the new board by the end of this year and to issue the request for proposals for a new resort facility at Prospect Reef in the first quarter of 2024. Madam Speaker, we have allocated $120,000 towards the Eastern Fairfax Bay Harbor project, which will stimulate economic development in the area. Some $150,000 has been apportioned for development of the facilities at Long Bay Beach on Beef Island, which will include an administration building, gazebos, and a boardwalk. These are investments that will help our economy to grow. A boost to high-end tourism is anticipated from the implementation of revised fees and structures within the marine industry from June 2024. Madam Speaker, the adjustments to the 30-year-old fees are not being done in a vacuum. We have consulted with our industry stakeholders. We have agreed to a strategy that will encourage more traffic through the BVI waters, protect the locally based industry, and encourage persons to become locally based. The core amendments to the Commercial Recreational Vessel Licensing Act include a range of policies aimed at achieving the following objectives: streamlining vessel categorization, ensuring vessel license integrity, promoting large yacht presence, strengthening registration requirements, mandating BVI charter origin, exempting BVI vessels from cruising permits, and exempting BVI vessels from import duties. These amendments are designed to strike a balance between regulatory oversight and the facilitation of a flourishing maritime sector. Additionally, Madam Speaker, we are proposing to extend the length of time that non-commercial vessels can remain in our territorial waters before requiring importation permits. This would align us with international standards and send a welcoming message to vessel owners, encouraging prolonged stays in the Virgin Islands without the worry of import duties. This extension not only fosters economic activity, but also strengthens our reputation as a hospitable and attractive destination for maritime tourism. Madam Speaker, it is the government's priority to expand our capacity to attract overnight visitors, because this is the captive group that provides enhanced economic activities for local businesses. The global and regional market has become highly competitive. Vacationers and business travelers are looking for new and exciting experiences. We have to develop these types of products as part of our portfolio, and we must promote them accordingly. This is tremendous potential for the Virgin Islands as an events destination, as we continue to host local annual events such as the Virgin Gorda Easter Festival, the BVI Spring Regatta and Sailing Festival, the One BVI Poker Run, Christmas in July, the Leverick Bay Poker Run, the Anegada Lobster Festival, the BVI Food Fete, BVI Summer Sizzle, Foxy New Year's Eve celebration, the return of the Music Fest, and the addition of Taste of Tortola and Taste of Virgin Gorda to the events calendar is expected to attract day trippers and overnighters. Worthy to note, Madam Speaker, is that this year is the 70th anniversary of our Emancipation Festival, and we have allocated resources for a grand celebration, and we welcome both visitors and returning residents to celebrate with us. Madam Speaker, direct flights from Miami to the Virgin Islands by American Airlines and continued operation of the Virgin Gorda Airport have contributed to the observed increase in overnighters and day trippers in the territory in 2023 over 2022. The end-of-year tally for overnighters in the Virgin Islands is expected to reach 241,639 passengers, a 38.6% increase from 2022. If the trends continue, it was projected that tourism revenue for 2023 could climb to $375.45 million. It is anticipated that 2024 would record total arrivals above 1 million visitors, with cruise visitors reaching almost 730,000, day trippers just over 16,000, and overnighters around 270,000. based on these anticipated arrivals in 2024. It is projected that tourism revenue for the territory could reach $410.77 million. To reap these results, we have to do the work, and we must promote and market our tourism products. Apart from promoting the BVI as a destination for events, substantial gains can only be realized by marketing the Virgin Islands more to luxury brands and from continued publicity at the Virtuoso Travel Week and Caribbean Travel Market. The BVI Tourist Board's partnership with Travel Desk to launch the North American Sail and Stay Summer Campaign is also likely to have a very positive impact. Madam Speaker, the future is very encouraging as the BVI Tourist Board has reported several total buyouts already for many of the major hotels and resorts, and a rise in the interest of the destination for honeymoons, weddings, and vow renewals. Additionally, the BVI Tourist Board will continue to extend its annual staycation program to the United States, Virgin Islands, and other countries in the Caribbean. And this is expected to add to our stayover visitor numbers in 2024. Madam Speaker, the recent attendance of a delegation at the Monaco Yacht Show after the BVI's 7-year absence to promote the destination in the super yacht market is also expected to bear fruit with an increase in stayover visitors. Furthermore, overnighters and day trippers to the territory are anticipated with more daily flights by American Airlines between not only the BVI and mainland USA, but many other Caribbean destinations, with American Airlines having more than 140 connections across the world from Miami. It is expected that the current 100-plus passengers arriving weekly could reach 455 in the short term. It is also anticipated that the demand from this service will lead to other airlines entering this market. This is good news for the BVI. Madam Speaker, my government is also making it a priority to diversify the tourism product by venturing into non-traditional areas of tourism activity, such as promoting the territory's culture and heritage through tourism. With this focus in mind, the BVI Tourist Board has been tasked with establishing a short-term plan to guide the growth and development of the sector over the next 2 years, while a tourism master plan is created to elevate the tourism product to the next level. We have already completed and approved the Virgin Islands Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategy, which will be very useful to this process. Madam Speaker, our focus is not just to maximize arrivals during the peak season, but to create products that will attract visitors in the so-called slow season. With the right products and marketing, we can ensure that our tourist businesses and workers have income opportunities year-round. Madam Speaker, our people deserve good infrastructure. There's simply no argument about that. The reality is that much of our infrastructure is aged. For varied reasons, past governments have not kept up with maintenance, repairs, and restoration. So we have come to the point where the infrastructure cannot hold anymore and are calling for urgent work. We must also acknowledge that our infrastructure endured significant damage in the 2017 hurricanes. The infrastructure has to be fixed, and the items that are most critical are the ones that have to be approached with the highest priority. The Ministry of Communications and Works and Public Works Department have been doing considerable work in repairing and maintaining our road network. Now that the new asphalt plant has been commissioned, we expect that efficiency and responsiveness with respect to road maintenance and construction will increase. The ministry will soon be embarking on one of the most impactful road improvement initiatives in our recent history. For 2024, $2.6 million has been allocated under the development budget for road improvements. The road improvement programs includes the upgrade and rehabilitation of 38 miles of primary roads throughout Tortola, Virgin Gorda, and Jas Van Dyke. And to be clear, that $2.6 million doesn't represent the value of that 38 miles of road, which we'll know that figure when the request for proposals come in. Currently, a tender is out, and through loan funding, it is expected that a comprehensive reconstruction of the road network will be completed within a 2 to 3 year period. This program will see the construction of new curb and slipper drains and short retaining walls to ensure the roads are secured, comprehensive overhaul of the roads to include provisions for rebuilding the road base, drainage, and road markings. Separately, the new construction of roads in the 7th and 8th districts will follow after the sewage works to rebuild the roads commencing from Paraquita Bay to Palm Town. Finally, a comprehensive asphalt patching program will be advanced throughout the 9 districts on the secondary and tertiary roads to provide a substantial upgrade to the existing road surfaces. The benefits of this road infrastructure program will provide a safe road network for the motoring public and achieve a smooth and comfortable ride for motorists. The Coastal Sea Defense Project will encompass Carrot Bay and Capoons Bay, and are also critical projects to protect road and residents' property from erosion, particularly from storm surge. Works commence with Phase 1 in the vicinity of the coal pot with the placement of rock revetment and gravity walls, and continue with Phase 3 rock revetment works in the vicinity of the cemetery area. The first Phase 1 works will be completed in the upcoming year with the installation of sidewalks along with the Phase 3 works completed with sidewalks in the area of the cemetery. Madam Speaker, another critical area that has been receiving high priority treatment from the government is the National Sewage Program. The National Sewage Program is a 3-pronged program that incorporates King Garden Bay, Eastern Longlook, and Road Town. I am pleased to report that through the sterling and dedicated efforts of the Minister of Communications and Works and his team, the King Garden Bay wastewater treatment plant has been completed, and final preparations are being made for the commencement of the installation of new gravity lines for the collection of sewage in King Garden Bay. In Eastern Longlook, contracts have been signed with Toshiba Water Solutions America, Inc. for the repair, refurbishment, and commissioning of the Paraquita Bay wastewater treatment plant and the construction of a new sludge treatment facility. Another contract has been signed with BioSafe Septic Solutions for the construction of the main pump station in the Eastern Longlook area at Long Swamp. Finally, a contract has been signed with Inatura LLC for the procurement and delivery of manholes and wet wells for the remaining gravity line installation and pump main works. Tender documents are currently being prepared for the main gravity and pumping main lines from Palm Town to Long Swamp, while other designs are being completed for the installation of gravity lines in the upper Longlook area. All of these works and tenders will be implemented in 2024. Also in 2024, we'll be developing the household connection plans so that homes and businesses can be connected in conjunction with the commissioning of the treatment plant at Paraquita Bay. Finally, in Road Town, it is anticipated that the Board Point wastewater treatment plant will be commissioned in December 2023, which would also include a tanker receiving station for trucks to deposit waste at the plant. Upgrade works are being planned for the main pump station at the roundabout to ensure the station is fully functioning in meeting the demands within the sewage network. Plans are being developed for constructing a new pump station at Purcell Estate to meet the additional demands within the Purcell Estate and Bargus Bay community. Upgrade works are also scheduled for the Fort Bort pump station, the Outfar line at Slaney, and the station adjacent to UP's Cineplex. The benefits of the works associated with the sewage project include the collection, treatment, and discharge of sewage received at international health and wastewater standards, eliminating potential health hazards due to runoff, and the opportunity to convert treated waste into fertilizer to aid with the development of our agricultural product. More than $3.5 million have been allocated for the sewage projects in King Garden Bay, Eastern Longlook, and Road Town for 2024. This is a priority. Madam Speaker, a good, reliable supply of potable water is critical for the development of our economy, as well for the comfort, health, and convenience of our people. The Ministry of Communications and Works and the Water and Sewage Department have been doing a lot of work to upgrade the aged and inadequate water distribution network. In 2024, the intention is to ensure that all the reservoirs are repaired and functioning as required to minimize leaks and waste. The upcoming year will see the issue of an expression of interest for upgrading the transmission and main distribution lines, which will result in reduced water loss within the network, the engagement of contractors to perform leak detection within the local distribution and service lines and continued the expansion of the local network. Madam Speaker, we are able to expand the local water line network in George's North Side and Havers. There are plans for Lock Hill and Upper Greenland area for water network expansion. A total of $4.9 million has been allocated for water improvement projects in the development budget. Madam Speaker, while on one hand we are looking at ways to increase the government revenues, we are also committed to reducing expenditure. Monies that are saved can be channeled into development work. One expense we would like to reduce is the rent that is paid to accommodate government offices. We are all aware of the impact that Hurricanes Irma and Maria had on the territory's infrastructure, including government buildings, and in particular the Central Administration Complex. Government offices that were affected had to be relocated to whatever property was left or intact or available, increasing our rent bill. But even before the hurricanes, some public buildings had been allowed to become unfit for occupancy, and alternative facilities had to be rented. For us to reduce the $8.9 million spent annually on renting office space, we must prioritize the repair, renovation, and where necessary, reconstruction of government buildings. The Minister of Communications and Works and his team have been pushing the work of the Ralph T. O'Neill Central Administration Complex. The sum of $3.3 million has been allocated to advance the restoration and renovation of the administration complex so that we can get our ministries back under government-owned accommodation. Some $8.92 million has been allocated for the construction of the House of Justice building and $4.6 million for the fit-for-purpose building for the Department for Disaster Management and the Emergency Operations Center. Funds have also been allocated, Madam Speaker, for renovations to the Water and Sewage building, Public Works building, and the fire station at Road Town, Virgin Gorda, and other fire stations throughout the territory, so that those workers can have more comfortable accommodation. Madam Speaker, the development of our agricultural sector will assist us with some measure of food security, while also creating economic opportunities for farmers and farm workers. My government is committed to building the Virgin Islands Agriculture and Fisheries Complex in Paraquita Bay, which has been spoken about for too long. $1.9 million has been allocated towards the development and construction of a Virgin Islands Agriculture and Fisheries Complex. Madam Speaker, wholesome, engaged, and close-knit communities are very important for the sustainable development of a nation. In the upcoming year, the government will be introducing a community development policy that will include the establishment of district councils in all 9 districts, including an additional council for Jas Van Dyke and additional council for Anegada. The district councils will be responsible for organizing and coordinating community events and will of course need a venue for meeting and holding activities. 3 community centers that are in urgent need of rehabilitation have been budgeted for repairs, totaling $920,000. They are the King Garden Bay Community Center, the Eastern Longlock Community Center, and the Bruce Bay Community Center. Like the other community centers, they were recently repaired. These will be upgraded with smart features. In speaking about the district councils, Madam Speaker, important to note that $1 million have been allocated for development or community projects in each of the district for a total of the district councils. Madam Speaker, it is a well-established fact that going green is good for the environment and has the potential to save money. A lot of money is spent in fossil fuel. And because fossil fuels have to be imported, this is also an avenue by which a lot of money leaves our economy. Not to mention also fossil fuels are dirty. There are a lot of benefits from green procurement, and it is the policy of the government to ensure that green technology and practices are factored into public projects. We continue to urge persons to embrace the initiatives for transitioning to renewable energy so that we can lessen our carbon footprint and save money. Within the next few weeks, the Ministry for the Environment and Climate Change will be launching the Green Pledge Drive. The Green Pledge Drive seeks to scale up the existing Green Pledge program, which encourages all businesses and organizations, including government agencies, to go green by reducing environmental impact during both development and operations. Government will lead by example by making a public service green pledge. Madam Speaker, as we chart a course for economic prosperity and sustainable growth, it is imperative that we prioritize funding for the Ministry of Education, Youth Affairs and Sports, affirming our commitment to move full steam ahead. Education is the bedrock of economic development. It is also critical for ensuring the future generations of Virgin Islanders are equipped for success. The government staunchly supports the strategic priorities of infrastructure, resources, and professional development within the ministry. Recognizing the transformative potential of education, especially in the realms of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. In 2024, we will particularly focus on expanding the initiative with a focus on developing and implementing a comprehensive STEAM-focused education program for pre-primary and primary grades. This initiative extends beyond the mere allocation of funds. It involves providing the necessary resources and training for our dedicated staff and eager students. By enhancing student engagement and achievement at an early age, we lay the foundation for a future generation equipped with the skills to navigate a rapidly evolving world. Additionally, we acknowledge the critical role of mathematics as a foundational subject. Thus, we commit to supporting the development and implementation of a comprehensive mathematics instructional program for students K through grade 6. This includes reviewing existing resources, providing targeted training for teachers and principals, and establishing an intervention program to ensure that every student achieves their full potential in mathematics. To align our educational efforts with the aspirations of our territory, it is crucial that the ministry continues to conduct a thorough review of the curriculum. This review will ensure its resonance with our standards for growth and economic development, while also meeting regional and international benchmarks for grade-level competencies. By doing so, we aim to empower our students with knowledge and skills that are not only globally relevant, but also reflective of the unique needs of our community. Our commitment to educational excellence extends to the senior secondary level. We recognize the necessity of conducting a comprehensive review of all our senior secondary subject offerings. This will pave the way for the introduction of new programs that align with specific career skills, providing our students with clear pathways to success in their chosen fields. By aligning education with the demands of the workforce, we empower our youth to become the architects of their own prosperous futures. Madam Speaker, teacher effectiveness is pivotal in ensuring student success. To that end, we commit to establishing partnerships with local and regional institutions to provide teacher training opportunities, including certification programs. This investment in our educators aims to enhance their effectiveness, ultimately improving student outcomes and nurturing a culture of continuous learning. The physical environment in which education takes place plays a crucial role in shaping the learning experience. Therefore, we prioritize funding and support to implement a comprehensive school infrastructure maintenance plan. By improving the teaching and learning environment, we enhance the quality of education and create spaces that inspire curiosity, creativity, and academic excellence. Youth and sports development stand as integral components of our vision for a prosperous future. We are committed to the continuation of after-school and summer school programs, recognizing their role in providing additional support and fostering holistic growth. Furthermore, the expansion of inter-primary and inter-secondary sports competitions in collaboration with sporting organizations will continue to create avenues for talent development and community engagement. In addition, programs for youth in the critical areas like education, entrepreneurship, employment, and the environment will be developed to equip our youth with the tools needed for success in a rapidly evolving world. In the spirit of inclusivity and collaboration, this budget reflects our dedication to ensuring that every citizen, regardless of background or circumstance, has the opportunity to excel. It is an investment in our future, laying the foundation for a skilled and empowered workforce that will drive innovation, economic growth, and social progress. Madam Speaker, we will continue our program of providing assistance to the vulnerable in our society. We will also seek ways of becoming more efficient and effective in identifying and addressing urgent critical needs in our society for social assistance. Policy and perhaps even legislative changes will be made to improve the process while maintaining transparency, accountability, and good administrative practice. We'll also continue to clean up our environment. In the coming weeks, we will put out a request for proposal for the removal of derelict vessels from our waters. Once the proposals come in, we will move expeditiously to execute their removal. Madam Speaker, looking at the budget numbers, the technical experts at the Ministry of Finance project revenues to the government of $382.67 million. Some $360.24 million is expected to come from receipt of taxes, $5.96 million from grants, and $16.47 million from other revenue sources. Recurrent expenditures estimated at $376.95 million. Some $159.75 million is allocated for employee compensation, $93.94 million for goods and services, and $83.66 million for grants to parastatals, statutory bodies and other organizations, and international bodies based on existing commitments. Provisions in the sum of $7.6 million have been made for property and other expenses, $345,000 for subsidies, $6.5 million for interest payments, and $25.16 million for social benefits. Through prudent financial management, the Ministry of Finance projects a recurrent surplus of approximately $15.7 million would be realized, which would be directed to debt servicing. Total capital expenditure is estimated at $70.9 million, of which $45.45 million will be for development projects and $25.45 million for capital acquisitions. Funding for capital projects and acquisitions will be raised via the following sources: $15.92 million from the Development Fund, $3.1 million from the Transportation Network Improvement Fund, $5.82 million from the Reserve Fund, $1.9 million from the Miscellaneous Purpose Fund, $9 million from existing loans, and $35.15 million from new loans. The foregoing, Madam Speaker, will result in a balanced budget. For 2024, central government debt is projected at $143.33 million, with $24.24 million in local debt and $89.03 million in foreign debt. Madam Speaker, I do wish to advise honorable members and the public that in order to fund some of the capital expenditure, it will be necessary for us to engage in some borrowing. Based on the quantum of work that we are aiming to achieve, the government is considering borrowing at least $100 million. These funds, Madam Speaker, will be an investment in the economy. The projects they will finance will improve our infrastructure to support and increase activities in our various sectors while benefiting the public. Additionally, they will provide employment opportunities, particularly in construction activities. Over the years, the BVI has developed a very competent pool of local contractors whom I hope would avail themselves to these opportunities to showcase their talent while developing our country. Now, as we speak about local talent and capabilities, Madam Speaker, the Recovery and Development Agency has an excellent track record of delivering major projects on time and within budget and scope. The RDA was formed for the purpose of responding to the recovery from the 2017 storms, and most of the recovery projects are almost completed. We recognize, however, that such an agency could be very useful for implementing and managing major government projects. It is therefore our intention to transition the RDA into a Virgin Islands Development Agency, which will be a permanent structure to deliver public projects because ministries do not have the capacity to properly manage certain kinds of projects. The distribution of allocations in the 2024 budget are as follows: 11.55% or $54.36 million to the Governor's Group, comprised of $50.35 million in recurrent expenditure and $4.01 million for development. 5.02 or $23.62 million to the Premier's Office, comprised of $18.51 million in recurrent expenditure and $5.12 million for development. 8.4% or $39.52 million to the Ministry of Finance, comprised of $31.77 million in recurrent expenditure and $7.75 million for development. 1.68% or $7.91 million to the Ministry of Financial Services, Labor and Trade, comprised of $7.75 million in recurrent expenditure and $160,000 for development. 2.67% or $12.55 million to the Ministry of Environment, Natural Resources and Climate Change, comprised of $8.43 million in recurrent expenditure and $4.12 million for development. 11.34 or $53.38 million to the Ministry of Education, Youth Affairs and Sports, comprised of $50.53 million in recurrent expenditure and $2.85 million for development. 20.38% or $95.92 million to the Ministry of Health and Social Development, comprised of $69.59 million in recurrent expenditure and $26.33 million for development. 15.92% or $74.95 million to the Ministry of Communications and Works, comprised of $54.57 million in recurrent expenditure and $20.38 million for development. 4.07% or $19.16 million to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sustainable Development for recurrent expenditure. 3.42% or $16.11 million to the constitutional established bodies, comprised of $15.92 million in recurrent expenditure and $197,600 for development. 12.36% or $58.17 million is allocated to pensions, public debt, and funds contributions, and 3.2% or $15.1 million is set aside for miscellaneous expenditure. To provide some further clarity and context, Madam Speaker, approximately 41% from every dollar of government revenue raised, or $159.75 million, will go towards compensation of government employees. Approximately 24% from every dollar, or $93.94 million, will go towards paying for the goods and services required for running the operations of government. Approximately 21 cents from every dollar, or $83.66 million, is allocated for grants to various public agencies to support their operational and development needs. Approximately 6 cents from every dollar, or $25.12 million, will go towards funding social benefits. Approximately 6 cents from every dollar, or $22.19 million, will go towards repaying loan principals and interest, and approximately 2% from every dollar, or $7.95 million, will go towards subsidies, property, and expenses. We do intend, Madam Speaker, to ensure that the people of the Virgin Islands continue to get value for their tax dollars and to continue to conduct the public business with transparency and accountability. Madam Speaker, over the decades and across the generations, our people have achieved great things to advance our development. We have built a resilient tourism industry and a world-class financial services industry, both of which are the envy of others. Since 1978, we have managed our own finances and steered our young nation along the path to development. When we consider that we have achieved what we have achieved and the adversities we have had to struggle against, we have done exceptionally well. But there is the need for us to continue this process of growth and development. At the same time, there is evidence of untapped potential. The time is now for us to take decisive steps and to move with purpose, focusing on the things that really matter and which will enable our country and our people to leap forward into a new era of development and expansion and prosperity. The projects and programs mentioned in this budget address in no way reflect the full scope of the plans and priorities of the government for the upcoming year. Examples were presented to illustrate the principles and strategies behind the direction in which we must proceed based on the global conditions, as well as the state of our main industries and other factors. With respect to our tourism industry, it is clear that we are limited by our current capacity, both in terms of what it takes for visitors to get from their home countries to our islands, and in terms of the accommodations in our stock, in an environment where there is high demand but also increasing competition. But where we do have a strong product, we need to do our part so that every visitor who wants to come to the BVI is able to get a flight or a ferry and a place to stay. This is the mission of the government, in addition to ensuring that we continue to create more reasons and experiences for tourists to want to come and to return. Similarly, we must have confidence in our very talented professionals in the financial services sector. Madam Speaker, by now there should be no doubt that our local experts are on top of their game, and the strategies that they are working on to transform and boost our financial services portfolio of products will bear fruit. We have to support and encourage them, and like with tourism, we have to help to market the BVI. Madam Speaker, the 2024 budget contains a number of major infrastructure projects to support economic growth. In deciding which projects needed to be accelerated, the government, together with the team in the Ministry of Finance and other ministries, looked at the impact, whether social or economic, that initiatives would have, and how these align with the needs of our various stakeholders, from ordinary citizens to public and private sector workers, to business persons and investors, and so on. Strong consideration was given to how advancing or deferring an initiative would affect the quality of life of our citizens. Striking the balance in these cases have not been easy. There's always the possibility that someone somewhere would be disappointed. But, Madam Speaker, this government is also determined to not let any individual or any community fall through the cracks. All of my ministers and I are always accessible to our public, and therefore, if there has been any oversight that is in our power to remedy, I urge persons to come to us and let us know. Madam Speaker, as I bring this address to a close, I call on unity of all members of the House of Assembly, opposition and government, to come together for the common good of lifting our territory into new heights of greatness. Yes, we have our disagreements and challenges, but these times are too crucial, the stakes are too high for us to be locked in partisan bickering. Let us show that we are capable of a new brand of politics, one which places building the nation and the needs of the people first, ahead of our own individual and partisan interests. Now is the time for leadership. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the members of the government for their support and their leadership and their collaboration in these difficult times. And I have trust in each and every one of their abilities to move this territory forward. Madam Speaker, I am presenting the leadership that I believe God has called me to provide in these crucial times. And I am answering the call, Madam Speaker. I take my responsibility very seriously, and with God as my guide, and as a strong team by my side, and the prayers, support, and advice of the people of the Virgin Islands, we will reinstill hope and start a new era of prosperity. Madam Speaker, the preparation of a budget and budget address are very enormous tasks. I wish to extend my appreciation to the Financial Secretary, Mr. Jeremiah Fred, and every single member of his team at the Ministry of Finance for their support and hard work. I wish to thank all my ministers and junior ministers, permanent secretaries, and every single public officer for their contribution and ideas. They exemplify what it is to work as a team. Special appreciation must also go out to the acting governor, Mr. David Arch, and his team, and the leadership team across the public sector. In particular, I wish to recognize the team at the Premier's Office and the Ministries of Tourism and Culture and Sustainable Development and Environment, Natural Resources, and Climate Change. And my permanent secretaries, Mrs. Carolyn Stout-Igwe and Mr. Joseph Smith-Abbott and Mr. Ronald Smith-Berkeley for their hard work and support. I also want to acknowledge my wife, First Lady of the Virgin Islands, who is present here, and I'm grateful for your support, along with all the other spouses and family members, party members, and supporters present today. I thank honorable members. Let me also acknowledge past members of the House of Assembly here as well, and past clerks and other special guests who are present here, members of the private sector, etc. I thank honorable members and you, Madam Speaker, and the audience present and following online and via the radio for your kind attention. May God continue to bless these beautiful Virgin Islands and our people. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 be now read a second time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a second time.
This act may be cited as the Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 and shall come into force on the first day of January 2024.
Thank you. I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move the following motion. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the following motion. Be it resolved that the annual estimates for the year Be it resolved that the annual estimates for the year 2024 My apologies, Madam Speaker. I move that the debate on the merits and principles of the bill entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 be deferred until a later date.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second that motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the debate on the merits and principles of the bill entitled Appropriation 2024 Act 2023 be deferred until a later date. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. I call upon the Premier Minister of Finance to move a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be it resolved that I rise to move the following motion. Be it resolved that the annual estimates for the year 2024 be referred to the Standing Finance Committee in accordance with Standing Order 67.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, a motion has been moved and seconded that the annual estimates for the year 2024 be referred to the Standing Finance Committee in accordance with Standing Order 67. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. Pursuant to Standing Order 67, the annual estimates for the year 2024 stands committed to the Standing Finance Committee. House is now in committee.
for staying tuned with us thus far. The House of Assembly, as stated by the Speaker of the House, Madam Speaker, has indicated that the House is now in committee for the Appropriation Act to be discussed based on the budget address that Premier Wheatley, Premier and Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Wheatley, just presented to the public. We had many people, senior officers, former elected officials here present, and based on the address given by the Premier and Minister of Finance, the technocrats in the Ministry of Finance produced what would be revenues that would amount to be the budget for 2024. And to indicate, I see some of our elected officials, and I would love to interview them. So if you can bear with me, and as I invite the Minister for Communication and Works, and well, sir, Honorable Kai Reimer. Honorable Reimer, our camera is right there for your kind audience. Sir, we just heard the Premier and Minister of Finance give the numbers of that the technocrats in finance would determine would be the revenue that comes from taxes and grants and other sources that would ultimately result in the budget for 2024, and it's some $382.67 million, sir. So, of course, we know your ministry has many technical and infrastructural duties. How are you looking forward to 2024 to continue the work of your ministry in those areas?
Thank you. First of all, good morning, good day to the listening public. We heard the Premier list out and laid out the entire budget speech, and I think it was quite ambitious, but it goes to show that, we are putting the people first, and we are making sure that the necessary funds are allocated at the necessary places. We heard the budget estimates. I'm proud to say that a lot was spoken of for the Ministry of Communications and Work with the projects that we have. I think 20% of the budget is now allocated for capital projects, and that is something that I look forward to. In terms of the road rehabilitation that we are working on, the Premier spoke about getting a loan upwards of $100 million, and we have a tender out there for 38 miles of road. That is supposed to fix our road infrastructure. We know about the Western Ferry Terminal. That is something that we are hoping to also achieve. The airport expansion, water and sewage. So I'm quite excited about the possibilities of getting some work done for failing and our aging infrastructure for us to get those things addressed starting in this year's budget. We know that we had some issues, continuing from the 2017 hurricanes and onwards for COVID and so forth. But we are quite optimistic that these infrastructural works will be done and taken care of from what was stated in this budget.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. One more question, as I know you're busy and you have to go into committee with your colleagues. The Premier mentioned about the infrastructure of government buildings, government stock. Do you have any comment on how that would affect your appropriation of the funding allocated to your ministry?
Yes, well, most of the public buildings were addressed, but we have the Ralph T. O'Neill Administration Complex, and that is something that we're working to get back on stream. We're hoping that this year, I think it was only about 3 or 4 million allocated, but we'll confirm the figures. But we're hoping that we can be back in the administration complex within the next 24 months. Work continues. We know we have priorities in all areas, but we're hoping that those works would continue on and hopefully end within this 24 months time frame. Thank you.
Any final words for the audience,
Well, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to say a few words based on the budget. I applaud the Premier, the Ministry of Finance, and all the work that they have done. But I'm also excited about the public officers. Public officers, we know that 60% of public officers are living below the living wage, and that is something that we should, be happy about to make sure that we can address. And, hopefully the public officers would see the investment we're making in them as well, and make sure that, they also would contribute to gaining additional revenues from what we are trying to achieve. We paid increments last year. The Premier, we've committed to continue paying increments. I'm not sure what the time frame is, but we're making sure that the public officers, they are taken care of. And it was based on the report for the salary review that we realized the situation of our public officers, and most definitely we are excited about seeing public officers' salary adjusted in the upcoming year. Thank you.
And we thank you for that, and your cabinet members for making that kind decision on behalf of public officers, sir. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. Alrighty. Yes, so we're privileged to have just spoken to the Minister for Communication and Works, and now an equal privilege to speak to the Education Minister. Thank you so much, Honorable Cherie B. DeCastro, Minister for Education, Youth Affairs, and Sports. I see you have a sum here of 11% of the potential budget that's going to result for 2024. Is that going to allow you to continue to move full steam ahead, Honorable?
It definitely will. I believe some integral aspects of our plan have been included in this year's budget, and of course there's always room for requesting additional funding through the Standing Finance Committee process, and I'm looking forward to fully fleshing out and understanding the budget so that we could be able to seek to champion the cause for additional funds as necessary through that process. But overall, I'm grateful for the amount that has been allotted, and of course we'll do our utmost best to be prudent in our spending and prioritize as necessary in 2024.
Yes, we know that a priority for your ministry and you, Minister, has been the infrastructure for the students and the teachers to inhabit, so the work of educating our people can progress very well. What are the priorities in that area for 2024?
So most definitely, the priority of infrastructure is very much embedded within this budget. We have to seek to ensure that we create a maintenance strategy and plan for our public schools. While there have been significant challenges in terms of the disasters and the impacts of those over the years, there has not been a strategic plan developed to be able to ensure that we maintain school during the time when children are on break. And so we have already begun to work on this, and the funding is in the budget to be able to carry out some of those scheduled works next year.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, and I'll give you one opportunity here to just speak to the audience listening and viewing on behalf of your ministry and yourself and the accomplishments you look forward to for 2024.
So I just definitely want to continue to speak to the reality of moving education, youth and sports full steam ahead. The ministry has committed through the funding that has been allocated to ensure that we create new initiatives and programming to be able to ultimately meet the needs of our future, which are our children. And we believe that through strategic partnership with the private sector as well as government funds, we'll be able to continue the mandate and ensure that science, technology, engineering, arts and mathematics education really revitalizes and reimagines education in the territory. Of course, as we seek to also strengthen our youth and sport portfolio, the return of the after-school and summer school programs have been integral, and the funding for this year, for next year, will seek to continue to develop and advance them for the betterment of our young people, as well as the inter-secondary, inter-primary sports expansion to not just athletics, but to all the other sports like volleyball, basketball, softball, and so forth. We're truly seeing not just investment in the time that children are in school, but also the times when they are not in school. And of course, our young people who seek to advance themselves through employment, entrepreneurship, the environment, as well as other areas. Through youth affairs and sports, we will be ensuring that initiatives are developed to be able to put them at the front of the line for any opportunity that comes their way in the territory in terms of the continued economic development as spoken about today by the Premier. So I'm happy to be the steward of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport, and I look forward to seeing how the 2024 budget will impact the lives of our educators as well as our young people as we continue to move Virgin Islands education full steam ahead.
Thank you so much, Honorable De Castro. That was the Minister for Education, Youth Affairs and Sport, Honorable Sharibi De Castro, and she is gratified in receiving the information as it would relate to the budget that would be allotted to the Ministry of Education. We have also the minister, the junior ministers. Yes, I'd like to welcome right now Honorable Dr. Carl Dawson. He's junior minister in his capacity. While you are delegated, Honorable, to the portfolio of the Premier, if you will, what is your thoughts on how the budget that's allotted would impact the portfolio that you would have to see through on behalf of the Premier?
Yeah, thank you very much, Desiree. And certainly, as I listened to the budget report, I was interested certainly in all the revenue figures because that will what will drive our ability to carry out the agenda. So I saw the prospects for improvement in tourism. That's excellent. But as far as agriculture and tourism and fisheries is concerned, the commissioning or the building, we commenced the building of the complex here at Paraquita Bay, which is a significant move for us as far as agriculture and fisheries is concerned. Closely related to that, I know we will bring into force the Food and Sustainability Act in 2024, and we'll also start to work of bringing into force the Agriculture Fisheries Management Authority. So those are significant developments for agriculture across the territory, and we'll, of course, not everything was mentioned, but we will be making work towards development, for instance, of fish landing sites as well across the territory and other forms of assistance for fisheries and agriculture practitioners.
So it seems that then the budget has much to do in your area with establishing authorities and structures that are going to help to make food sustainability and the fishing sustainable. So that impetus will be established beginning in 2024 for future.
Yes, and of course our aim as far as the department is concerned, the ministry is concerned in that area, is to see how we continue to support those persons who have already begun to invest, or fishers and farmers who have invested in that sector, and given the critical role globally as far as food security is concerned, the government will be facilitating the development of those areas.
All right. Any final words to the audience from you, Honorable?
Well, again, I would then just like to thank the persons of the 1st District who have actually elected me and placed me here. I'm glad to see some of our projects going ahead. The ferry terminal will certainly commence early in 2024. The Carrot Bay Sea Defense Project will be also continuing in 2024, as well as other road works. And we will be working closely with departments such as Culture and Tourism to improve the tourist experience in the territory.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dawson. Have a good rest of the day as you all deliberate on the budget that was proposed by the Honorable Minister of Finance earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree.
All righty. That was the Junior Minister, Dr. Carl Dawson, Honorable Dr. Carl Dawson. And now we have the Minister for... Okay. We have the Minister for... Yeah, so you can make sure that the audience sees your face. As you speak to them, you'll be speaking to them.
I'll get to the audience, yeah.
Yes, I will ask a couple of questions, but, it's on behalf of the audience. So, Honorable Wheatley, welcome. What is your perception on what the Minister of Finance made an address today on this very important occasion, annual occasion, to project for 2024 what the budget would be and the social ramifications that it would have based on your ministry and yourself as a minister?
Yeah, I'm very pleased. A very challenging time, but I think they did a very good job. Now, I should feel guilty, but I don't, because I got the biggest portion of the budget. Now, right now in the budget, My ministry covers from the cradle to the grave, so naturally we would have the biggest portion. So what you're going to see is a lot of things done for prison, primary health care, HSA, waste management, community centers. All of these things, you're going to see major improvements starting from January right away. Some have started already, and we're going to continue with these things. Also, social protection is something we have to make sure we focus on. People are going through very challenging times, and we have to make sure that we meet the needs of our population the best we can. So there are going to be some changes in the social policy in terms of the amount of money persons even receive and things they can receive assistance with. Now, the detail didn't really come out today because obviously it's a very long speech, but you're going to see a lot of changes in those things happening for 2024.
Well, thank you for that so far. So as it relates to you're making sure that the public is advised as to those changes. You said hitting the ground in 2024, we'll see those changes. So we look forward to your engagement with the agencies such as GIS to make sure that the public is well advised how they can access these very necessary things and the benefits of the other agencies such as solid waste and those type of things that they can benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to increase our PR in our education, educating of the public as what we are doing in this ministry, and that we've pledged to do. So you'll be hearing a lot from us in 2024. Starting from December, you're going to hear the various changes that we're going to be making and how persons can benefit them. One of the things we will do, persons will receive financing through social development. We're going to increase that. It's going to happen as quickly as they can possibly get it done. Yes, exactly. So that's going to happen as very early in 2024, an increase in persons receiving financial assistance from social development. Also, in some of the community centers, we're going to start getting those repaired. We have 3 in this budget here, which I'm very thankful for, to get our seniors back active again. We're going to get a seniors program on by first quarter next year, because most seniors meet in the community centers. But those that have been repaired already, we're going to start this program right off in 2024. The seniors called me a lot because they like to be together with the fellowship, and they really miss it. Seniors, we're going to get you back together very soon.
Thank you, Honorable. That's a perfect way to end. I think the audience would be encouraged that they have something to look forward to on whatever, young, old, or otherwise. They're going to be benefit from the social assistance that's coming through the Ministry of Health and Social Development. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. Thank you.
All righty. That was Honorable Vincent Whitley. And now we have Junior Minister, Honorable Luce Hodge-Smith, Tourism, Culture, Sustainable Development. Thank you very much for joining us. I know your portfolio as a junior minister is devolved from the Premier's portfolio. So, but the Premier spoke significantly on the contributions that tourism always makes to the economy of the Virgin Islands. So tell me what your thoughts are on the fact that the ministry that you are devolved with, you're getting like just shy of $20 million to help encourage the industry that really brings in much to this territory.
Yes. Well, that is significant. Thank you so much in terms of the need for us to really put the financial resources behind our tourism industry. As you know, it's a very competitive, very competitive industry, and we need all the funds that we can get to push the British Virgin Islands tourism product. Now, the funds that you mentioned in terms of over $20 million, I think that is a good step in terms of allowing us to push some of our projects forward and marketing the territory, increasing our product, enhancing our product. So we're looking forward to spending that money in good use to really push forward our tourism industry. As you are also aware, the development products that the Premier also mentioned in the speech in terms of the hotels that are going to be built, the projects that are coming forward that are already signed, some have already started, all of that is going to push our economy, and we need to spend the money to make money. So it's an exciting time, and looking forward to all these projects being started.
The Premier also spoke about the expansion of the airport, which is going to be major in tourism, and of course the Western Ferry Terminal. So what are your perspective on looking forward to those numbers?
Well, those are exciting times, definitely, because we expanding our airport it would involve increasing our visitors' capacity, increasing our airplane sizes. We just did the inaugural flight for Tradewinds in Virgin Gorda, which will be doing direct flights from Virgin Gorda between Virgin Gorda and Puerto Rico. So imagine when we have the expanded runway. So we will bring in larger airlines, major airlines, and then, of course, that means more people to our destination. So, of course, they go hand in hand. we're making our territory accessible, and we're also producing the beds so that our visitors will be able to stay. So the future is bright when it comes to tourism and our economy.
Already wonderful. Just one last message in general from
Yes.
you to the audience.
Well, as we heard the budget speech today, and from the Honorable Premier, it's hopeful for our territory. He mentioned some of the adversity that we have experienced since 2017 with the floods, with the COVID-19, etc. But, I agree with him that we are a resilient people and we overcame all those adversities. And not to say that there won't be more in the future, but when they come, we're going to address them just like how we have addressed and dealt with all these adversities in the past. But adversity makes us stronger. Adversity also brings further opportunities for us to grow. So I look forward to the future of our territory.
Thank you for that. We're hopeful that your tenure goes well in your portfolio of tourism, culture, and sustainable development. Happy Tourism and Culture Month, as we're in the middle of that right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, so that was Junior Minister Honorable Lou Schmidt, the man of the couple of hours, I should say. Yeah. Yes. Sir, I'm sorry. I want to make sure you have your good angles for the camera and your audience. Thank you for a very comprehensive, as usual, budget address with appropriations that could potentially be set for 2024 budget. Premier Minister of Finance, this is mostly your capacity here today. Are you hopeful for what you're seeing for the territory as it relates to the budget that you just presented?
Yes, I'm hopeful. Obviously, in the budget, I spoke about the global outlook, which is, of course, almost like lukewarm. And in the speech, one institution I quoted said it looked anemic. But I'm an optimist. I'm a hopeless optimist, and I always think that things will work out well once we trust our principles. Once we trust that we have to work hard, we have to make sacrifices, we have to be unified. And if we do all of those things, we will be able to shield the brunt of any challenges that might be in the external world. So for many years in the Virgin Islands, we were isolated and cut off from the world, and we survived. We used everything around us to survive, and it developed in us a kind of resilience and a strength. And sometimes with prosperity, you might lose that. But we've been through very difficult circumstances with the hurricanes, with the pandemic, and I believe that resilient spirit that our ancestors practice is really benefiting us right now. It was not completely lost. It was somewhere deep down inside of us, and we're drawing on it now. And so what I think we need to encourage us is unity, is hard work, is innovation, is getting ideas from wherever you can get it from, consulting with the public, inviting your colleagues to give input and ideas. And we have tremendous potential here because we have wonderful national assets. And those national assets, chief among them, are the people. We have one of the most educated populations anywhere in the world. And I'm not just talking about persons who have university degrees. I'm talking about persons who have knowledge of nature, persons who are wise, persons who know the Bible, persons who know history, We have a great deal of common sense. So we have people here who have a lot of tools and a lot of gifts that we can draw on. And we also have a very beautiful territory. We have a matchless beauty of the Virgin Islands that everybody wants to come to. They want to see it, they want to live here, they want to experience it. Sometimes we take it for granted. And of course, we have a financial services industry built by our professionals and those persons in the private sector who has been the envy of the world. So we have lots of tools that we can draw on and chart a course forward. Of course, we have some things that we have to examine about ourselves. We have to be humble enough. We have to be modest enough to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves tough things. Because you don't improve and you don't grow unless you diminish your ego enough to allow yourself to be evaluated from a critical standpoint and to seek to make improvements.
So I appreciate that very philosophical almost, Premier, as you spoke to the intelligence of our people and the technocrats in the Ministry of Finance. They actually provided you with these numbers that were clear based on what the expectations of increase that could potentially take place in the areas of tourism and taxes and things of this nature, and of course the financial services industry. I saw only one area of actual drop that was mentioned during your address based in financial services. But at the same time, knowing that that industry still is very integral to us.
Yeah, well, in financial services, we had uncharacteristically in 2022 a bump in incorporations. But the trend before that for some time was for a decline in new incorporations. One of the reasons that has been posited for that is the saturation of the BVI brand, along with some other pressures. And of course, the BVI also has increased its fees, and it's almost become more of a luxury kind of boutique kind of brand. And so it is transitioning from quantity to very high quality. So the companies we have here are good quality. It's good business. It's business that we want to keep. But also there are tremendous international pressures that the BVI is subjected to. Well, a lot of them are man-made, but also, of course, we have other pressures as well on the financial services industry, keeping up with the regulatory regime and the sometimes shifting goalposts. But we've been very good. We've been agile. We've been nimble. We've been responsive, and we'll continue to do that. And we're going to continue to fight for the financial services industry. It is bringing in a great deal of revenue, so it is unfair to expect that we should continue to expect it to have that share of responsibility. We have to diversify the economy. We have to add, we have to improve on revenues from tourism, which we have great potential to do. And we have to look at other areas like agriculture and fisheries and, light manufacturing, whatever it is we could do, the arts, things like that to be able to stimulate the economy.
Great. Well, you've been very comprehensive already in your address, Premier, so I won't keep you much longer. Just one more directed to your audience, and tell us what the planning priorities and progress, the theme for this year, what it really means to you to have been given that building a sustainable nation.
Well, as you know, we passed the National Sustainable Development Plan not too long ago, and the concept behind that plan was to tie our development to something that, first of all the people of the Virgin Islands had an opportunity to contribute to, and not necessarily one party wants to do something, another party wants to do something else. So long-term planning is very important for us. And as we know, we have limited resources. So a part of the planning process has to be a process of prioritization, of determining
what we look at first, what we look at second, and what we look at subsequently. And sometimes we don't have our priorities in order. So we have to have a conversation as a community about what our priorities should be. And in the budget, we would hope that certain important priorities have been addressed. A long-standing priority has to do with things like public servant salaries. I'm sure you can attest, Desiree, as a public officer, the wages in the public service can be better across the board. Especially, we described grades 1 through 6, where I think close to 60% of the service is. We need to do better by them, so that's a priority. I mentioned other things which are priorities, which is managing the growth of recurrent expenditure, being able to bring in more revenues so that we can invest more in capital projects. Lots of different unsustainable measures that we need to tackle, and we will be tackling in this budget. So I thought it was time for us to yes, celebrate our resilience, but also decide that we confront things which have been hampering our growth for many years and things which we need to address, to make tough decisions to address.
Well, we thank you very much, Honorable Premier, Honorable Minister for Finance as well. So we appreciate your time, your address this morning, and your comprehensive answers to these questions. Again, thank you very much. Have a great deliberation with your colleagues on this important address.
Yeah, thank you, Desiree. And let me thank your team, the Government Information Service, for always being present and always helping to facilitate information getting to the public. And I also want to thank the Financial Secretary and his entire team. They did an awesome, tremendous job. Their job is not over. Of course, they have to take us through standing finance and through the passage of the budget. But they have been doing a marvelous, wonderful job, and whatever increases they get through that salary review, they deserve every penny of it.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
All right, so that was the Premier, and that's going to bring our recap of the address that the Premier and Minister of Finance gave today on this special sitting of the House of Assembly. That was the 6th sitting of the first session of the 5th House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands. Premier gave a very comprehensive address wherein the Ministry of Finance provided him with figures to the tune of $382.67 million that would result in the budget as it results from revenues that comes from taxes, from our tourism and financial services industry and other areas of revenue generation. So we're grateful to have gotten this opportunity to hear this address as the Minister and the Minister of Finance and his other colleagues go into deliberation, and then we can look forward to a final figure for our 2024 budget for the territory of the Virgin Islands. This has been the GIS production and presentation of this information, and I am your host on this regard, Chief Information Officer Desiree Smith, thanking you for joining us and hoping that you have a good rest of the day.